Hello, everyone. Welcome back to part 8 of The Emperor's Concubine. Let us dive into the story to see where it should lead us today.
This town is quiet when it's late here. This town is quiet when the night is getting close. I'm outside, gonna stay here. I'm outside until you tell me to stop. I'm being so dramatic. I'm always being so dramatic. This town is quiet when it's late here. This town is quiet.
Genevieve's eyes opened, and the first person she saw was Camilla, sitting next to her, gently grinding some herbs. She made a sound, and her servant looked up, rushing to her side, taking her hands. "My lady, are you hurting anywhere?" she asked. "No," Genevieve whispered hoarsely. "Where is the Emperor?" "I can fetch him." She left, and a moment later, Lionel entered, and his eyes held a deep pain that made her heart ache. He reached over and brushed her hair back, taking her hands in his. "You must be famished." "No, I'm all right. I am just tired." His eyes darkened. "This act of yours has my head spinning, my lady. Will you tell me now what is going on?" Tears filled her eyes, and she felt her lips tremble. "Emperor, there is a dark force working around me, and I feel I cannot control it. I just need you to trust me for the time being. When everything is revealed, you shall understand." "That doesn't give me much hope." "Hope is the last thing you need to worry about, Emperor. Right now, you should worry about how to keep your kingdom in peace." His face paled, and he took in a deep breath. "How you would know that leaves me questioning a lot of what is going on. Lady Genevieve, tell me, please, what is the truth?" She looked at him with tearful eyes and let out a deep, long, exhausting breath. "The truth is that nothing is what you know, and everything you know is a lie." The night sky had darkened to where nothing could be seen before the eyes as Lionel set foot onto the palace grounds. He'd seen a torch show up in the abandoned barn up ahead from his study room, and without thought walked out to investigate. Too many things had gone wrong in his own castle walls, and this time he was sure something was about to happen again. When he pushed open the door to the barn, the smell of hay entered his nostrils, and he could hear the soft squeaking of door hinges. He softly walked into the building and realized the torch had been put out long before he arrived, even though he could still smell the fire in the air. "Emperor?" He froze as he recognized the voice belonging to Genevieve. He didn't turn around, but he waited until she appeared from the dark, and the light of the moon showed upon her beautiful face. "What are you doing here?" she asked. "I could ask you the same thing." A smile broke upon her face, and she tilted her head. "I am to enjoy the presence of the moon. Its paleness makes me weary." "Lies," he hissed. "Then lies it is." She reached out a hand and touched him. "The truth is that you will crumble if I were to speak what is truly inside my heart. Have you ever wondered if you could be saved after what your people have done? Have you?" He shoved her off, and the eyes that looked back at him seemed to glow. "What have you done to my bride?" She smiled, and then a movement caught him as something entered. He shoved her away, and a match lit, showing Seamus standing with a torch. He watched as Genevieve walked to Seamus and hooked her arm around his. "Lord Seamus? What is going on here? This is unholy!" he shouted. And then he listened as Lord Seamus began to chant a spell, and to his utter surprise, the woman who stood before him as Genevieve began to shiver and shake, her face crumbling into pieces as she fell to the ground. When she began to move and stir again, she stood and removed the cloak hiding her face to reveal Paloma before him. Lionel gasped in shock and took several steps back, his heart slamming against his chest. "Empress?" he asked. "Yes, my king." She extended a hand to him. "Emperor, do you trust me?" He didn't answer as she smiled and continued. "Perhaps in your heart you were ready to name her your empress and let me go entirely. If it hadn't been for my brother to work this trick of magic upon me, I wouldn't be here today. But I saw your execution, as did the entire world, your majesty, all thanks to the art of illusion from my brother Seamus. Waverley was able to get him to come to me in time to veil me far enough from the castle walls. The woman you saw before you was a servant masked as me. You married a young girl who had no history of family or origin." Lionel dropped to his knees and let out a sigh. "Good Lord, my heart cannot take this news." Paloma dropped before him and took his face in her hands. "Your Majesty, you must beware. Something evil is at play here, and if you allow it to happen, your kingdom will be ruined." "Where is Genevieve?" he asked. Her eyes softened. "She is kept prisoner at Seamus's castle grounds. No harm has come to her, but the body switch has left her mother wondering why her daughter is not setting into motion the plans they have discussed." "What is her plan?" "To overthrow you, my lord. It is a long story in the telling, and right now, Genevieve is kept just barely awake, for even I fear her. But her mother is the one whose anger has been held over centuries of hurt. She is your great-grandfather's concubine, the one whose people were left to bury when he found out she had an affair." Lionel's heart sunk, and he shut his eyes, feeling the crumble of his world. No wonder his great-grandfather had not allowed concubines after the fall of his reign. He felt the anger and hate entered his body, and then he looked up at his wife and took her into his arms. Holding her reminded him of everything he had lost, and he began to cry. "Forgive me, my empress. I have wronged you." She reached out slowly to hug him, and he heard her soft sobs. "My emperor, the world watched you fall and did nothing. I tried, and yet I was left broken. Yet I knew that you were bewitched, and there was something I could do to help you. Forgive me for putting a trick on your eyes." He pulled away and wiped her tears. "I have wronged you, Empress. You have suffered at my hands. The eternity I have left in me, I shall use it to mend you and I." She smiled and touched his cheek. "Your words have never lost its magic, your majesty. For the time being, we must be careful. Our plan is not to be revealed. You must hold fast to the belief that I am no longer living, and continue to believe Lady Genevieve. I will have Seamus return the illusion to me to hide the plan in place, but you cannot break the promise of knowing who I truly am. River is a gifted shaman, and she can sense these things if we are not careful." Nodding, he replied, "I understand." She stepped away from him, and Seamus began chanting again in a strange dialect, and he watched as Paloma's face disappeared, and Genevieve returned.
기다렸어요. 오랜 시간을 밤이 지나고 빛이 쏟아지길
River entered the chamber where Genevieve was sitting by the balcony, her handmaiden brushing her hair and twirling it into a bun. When Genevieve noticed her, she turned, and a smile spread across her gentle face. "River," she said, "you have come at last?" She gently pushed Camilla aside. "Leave us." Camilla nodded and left as River walked onto the balcony and picked up the comb to continue the servant's work. "You have a different shine about you today," River said. "Has he come to visit you as of late?" Shaking her head, she replied, "No, he has not. The walls have been quiet, and I have been brooding things to do." "Good. You must remember your purpose, Genevieve. If you lose your place, your people will again suffer, and history will be repeated. I have waited too long for revenge." Genevieve stopped her hand and stood up, reaching out to touch her arm. "River, the hatred you have in you also lives in me. I know how much you have suffered. I won't fail my mission this time." Smiling, River replied, "Good, because if you do, it will be my hand that will take away your heartbeat." "Was it always your hand that caused my demise?" River watched her eyes dance with an emotion she did not recognize, and then she walked forward. "Why do I sense that you are not honest with me? What are you hiding?" "I am not hiding anything, River, but perhaps it is you who is not faithful to me. I feel I am being led around in circles." Suddenly, River grabbed her by the throat and pushed her against the wall, her heart hammering against her chest as Genevieve's eyes widened. "If you fail me, I will again take your heart. It has been too long for me to wait in the shadows." Genevieve gasped lightly and coughed. "Do you understand me, little girl? The power I have is not one you wish to play around with. If you do not fulfill your duty, I will do it for you while getting rid of you with it." "Yes," Genevieve managed to say as River dropped her to the ground where she fought to breathe. "Good. Remember your words, my darling girl. These walls have been kept quiet for too long. It is time they once again are splattered with blood, and this time it shall not be mine, but that of the Emperor's." As Genevieve crawled to a standing position, River reached out and yanked a strand of her hair, twirling it around her finger. "A piece of you with me, so you remember what I can do to you," she whispered. "Do your duty for your people. Love has no answer in this battle. For far too long, you have failed and have left us standing with no home. This time, make sure you are victorious." The dark hallway was dimly lit with torches as Lionel made his way toward Genevieve's chamber. The echo of his footfalls was too loud in the silence of the hall. He reached the door and pushed it open to find her sitting on the bed, dressed in a lacy nightgown, and his heart began pounding. He closed the door and she ran to his arms, holding him as her sobs were heard. He pushed her back gently and cupped her face, looking at her eyes as she began to tremble. "I think River suspects me," she whispered. "She aims to take my life if I fail. We must be careful." He nodded and brushed the tears with the back of his thumb. "Do not fear, my lady. I will not let anything happen to you. You will be protected." Tears continued to fall from her eyes as she sobbed and replied, "You will have to sacrifice blood, Your Majesty, for her to believe I have taken your life. Seamus has a potion for you to take. It will make you look as if death has kissed your lips, and will put our plan into motion. But it is dangerous, for if I cannot get the antidote to you in 6 hours, your heart will truly stop. Seamus believes this is the only way, but I am afraid of asking you to take part in it." He gathered her into his arms and pulled her to sit down on the bed. "If this is the only answer and way to stop River from her goal, I will do it. I will have Easton with me, and I trust that he will get the antidote to me in time. I worry about you when my eyes are closed." Shaking her head, she replied, "Do not worry about me. I have my brother who will take care of me. Tomorrow, on the eve, meet me in the barn, and I shall have the antidote ready for you. Once the kingdom hears of your death, Seamus will take your body and use another's in your place for burial. Everything shall be done according to plan, and River will be taken prisoner once she realizes no one is here to fight her war. He smiled and reached out to hug her, holding her close. My heart is yours, Empress. As he pulled back to kiss her, he missed the shadow that gently made his way back into hiding. Thank you for tuning in. Chapter 9 should be released shortly.